In this video, I'm going to walk through the most effective ad strategy for the fitness industry. I'm going to go through a couple case studies of yoga studios, as well as some other different style gyms to show you exactly how they were able to generate 120 new members in under 6 months. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am, since 2017, I've been building marketing systems specifically for gyms and have managed millions of dollars in ad spend for this industry. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly the process and system that we've built in order to generate these types of results. Before we get into the details of the actual marketing system itself, I wanted to share a couple results and case studies with you. Shauna here, as an example, runs a yoga studio, and in 4 months, she had 537 first visits. And of those, 457 paid for a $10 to $19 trial. She started with 146 members and is now at 275 members in just 4 months. That's 129 new members in 4 months. That's absolutely absurd. She also had 21 punch pass purchases at $219 per purchase, and her Google reviews, we were able to take her from 55 to 180 Google reviews. Why is this important? That's important because the more Google reviews you have, the more organic traffic you get, which means you're going to be able to, generate more members from that. Now, in each of these, you're going to see there is a video clip here. You can always head over to untapped-revenue.com/case studies, and you can see a whole list of all the different case studies that we have. I also wanted to show you just some concrete numbers here. So this is taken directly from Shauna's MindBody account, because I know there's, a lot of false gurus out there in the marketplace. And so what I wanted to share with you was concrete numbers, some screenshots that we took from her account. So you can see membership started at 146 from August 1st to the 31st. Then, by September 1st and December 31st, she had 275 members. That's in 4 months. And then you can see her ad results here, $5.65 a lead, $4,352 spent there. And that equated to 537 first visits, which in this case are just going to equate to show ups, like people who actually walked in their doors. Okay. We also have Dan here, who had 163 trials purchased in just 1 month. Of those, 50% converted to membership. So 82 members in his first month. In 11 months from February to December, he had 1,800 first visits, which is just also, show ups, which is pretty insane. 163 new people in his doors every single month for 11 months. Okay. This video is also on our case study page, which I'll show you in a second. He also had, 200 to 427 members in those 11 months. So that's 227 new members in just 11 months and 256 punch pass purchases. His Google reviews went from 22 to 161. Like I said, really important for getting organic growth. And you can see the screenshots here as well, 200 to 427. You can see the date that these screenshots were taken. And then his results from the ads, just under $6 per lead, from January to December 31st, and then 1,803 first visits taken directly from Facebook, from MindBody here. You can also see here his punch pass purchase total, 256, another screenshot taken directly from MindBody. And lastly, we have Haley here, who had similar results here. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go into too much details on Haley, but you can see here in her first month, 30 new members, 190 first visits. And then in 3 months, she had 189 first visits, also show ups. And then she went from 119 to 219 members with 68 punch pass purchases in just 3 months. Okay. Absolutely insane. Screenshots once again, just to show you this. And as I said, if you want to see any of these specific case studies, you can head over to untapped-revenue.com/case studies to see a whole bunch of these different ones. And so now that you have an idea of the types of results, I'm going to show you the exact system here. Okay, so the first thing that we need to set up is a proper testing system for our ads. Okay, so the first thing we did with each of these clients is we built out a test. Okay. And the idea with this test is to figure out, what is appealing to the audience? What's actually going to get people to click, opt in, and give us their information so that we can actually convert people onto memberships. And so the first thing we do with every client that we're basically running ads for is we want to run an offer test. Okay. There's a bunch of different offers that you can run, but the last thing that you want to do is just select one offer and hope that it works. And so what we want to do is we want to use data to make decisions. And so in this case here, you can see we ran a 14-day core restore, 2 weeks for $45, 10 days for $10, and a 15-day trim and tone program. You can see here that after running this test, each of these offers got roughly the same amount of reach. And so you can see here, each of them got around 1,000. This one got a little bit less, but this was enough that we had, concrete data. Every test here got a fair amount of reach. And then you can see the result difference between all of these individual ads. Okay. And so just to paint the picture here, if we decided hey, let's just run a 14-day core restore for $14, this is like close to $10 a lead, which is 3 times more expensive than if we ran a 15-day trim and tone program. Okay. And so you can see the drastic difference in the lead cost here. Obviously the 10 for 10 was a lot similar. to this in terms of results. However, we want to find the most effective ad campaign to run with the cheapest cost. And so the first thing you want to do is set up an actual test. And so what you'll notice about each of these individual ads is it's an isolated test. So if I go to preview the first ad here, you're going to notice something. So we have the 14-day core restore here. Up here, we have a simple copy that we use and a video creative. Okay. In the next ad, everything is the exact same structure. Okay. You can barely tell the difference here. The only thing that we changed is this headline. For whatever reason, it's not showing up. But if I scroll down to the headline section here, go to this one here. Not sure why it's not showing up, but you can see here that it's 2 weeks unlimited access only. So that's the only difference here. The headline will show up here saying that. If I go to the 10 days, you can see 10 days unlimited. It's showing up here now, and now it's gone for whatever reason, but 10 days unlimited. So that's the only thing that we are changing. And so that's the isolated variable. And after we run this test, I know that the only difference between these ads is that headline. And so at this point, I can be confident to say that, this 15-day program is the winner. And so what we did at this point is we took that winning offer and we ran it. And so if I go back to, last year, let's just we'll go all the way back to when we started. And I believe we started with them in February 1st, and we'll do a full year. So the 11 months that I mentioned in the case study for Dan. And you can see here, 1,600 leads, $5.58 during this time period. And so what we did is we took that offer that had won and we ran it. And you can see here, we have a whole bunch of these different ads that we had been running. And so what you want to do once you figure out your offer and your headline is you want to run more isolated tests. And so the best thing that you can do in this case here is start changing out the creatives to find one that's going to work. So you'll notice here when we were running this campaign, this one here had 407 leads. The reason it was still running is because it had the best social proof and it was doing the best in comparison. However, we don't just want to keep this one campaign running or this one ad running. We want to start testing more variables. And so you see here, like the difference between these ads, the only thing that's different, we have the exact same copy, exact same headline. You can see the social proof down here. And part of the reason why this ad did so well is because of that social proof. But if I go to a different ad here, the only thing that's different is the actual creative. And so what we're doing in this case here is we're isolating the creative. And so this would be considered a creative test. Okay. Now moving forward, part of this ad process and this structure, you're going to want to make sure that you're isolating variables whenever you're testing. And so something we could do is rather than testing, different creatives or different offers here, I could start to replace this section here. And so I could duplicate this ad a couple times, change out this upper section, and then review the results afterwards to see, hey, which copy is getting the best result. And so the idea here is when we're building out ads is we want to have a structured ad testing process in order to make sure we know what's working and what's not working. Okay. And so at this point, I know what offer's working. We have good creatives that are running. And so we could start to run some tests here to see if we can get a better copy and basically try to keep the cost down. And that's exactly what we did for this account. And you can see here, all these out of these 1,500 leads, we have a ton of tests here. So like a lot of these down here, this got $15 spent, 0 leads generated. And as I scroll up here, you're going to notice that the costs are slowly improving. And that's because we're optimizing, we're testing new things, and we're trying to figure out what's going to get us the best bang for our buck. And up here at the top, we're going to have our best performers that we're doing the best here. And so we're going to repeat this process moving forward. Now, for each of these campaigns, how we set it up structurally. So we'll go through this quickly here. And so we're running lead ads objectives. And so we're basically running an ad that has a form that pops up on Facebook. And so our targeting, very simple. Whenever we're setting up our targeting here, it's just going to be about a 5-mile radius. And then our audience is going to be, depending on obviously the types of clients that you want, who your ideal avatar is, you're going to structure your age depending on that. What I recommend doing to start is keep it broad and as wide as possible. And then once you start to see, hey, the 65 plus range isn't really working, they tend to be lower quality leads, we're then going to remove that higher age and we're going to reduce this to basically pick and choose the most appropriate ages that are actually going to lead to the most bookings, show ups, and sales on the back end. And so if I needed to make adjustments here, I could come in if I'm realizing that the older demographic just isn't converting. I can come in here, change the audience targeting to make sure that we're not including those types of people. Other thing, as I mentioned in this case here, this is 8 kilometers, which is also 5 miles. And so we generally want to keep our radiuses as small as we can while making sure that our audience size is not small. So you can see here, our estimated audience size is around 70 to 85,000. If this was like 10,000 people, we're going to want to expand the radius. If we're in a city, as an example, Toronto is close by to where I live. It's a very densely populated city. And so people aren't going to travel 5 miles in Toronto to get to a gym. Instead, that radius would need to be condensed to about 1 mile radius. Okay. But that's pretty much it for the targeting. There's nothing too advanced about that. And then the ads themselves, I mentioned some of the testing parameters here, but what you're going to want to do when you set up your forms is you're going to want to make it a lead form, and you're going to want to give some information here, some basic stuff. This is a yoga studio, and so for them, we have a couple of dot jots here to give them some idea of what to expect. Then we collect their information. Once this is all set up, we then basically reach out to them with our follow-up process, which is going to be the next step in this system. Okay, so the next step here is to set up the proper follow-up systems on the back end. Okay, we're generating all these leads, but there needs to be a way to convert those leads into bookings, show-ups, and ultimately membership sales. And so for this same ad account, so basically we were looking at Dan's yoga studios account. And so if we continue on with Dan's account and we look through, his results, he had 1,600 leads here. And so on the back end system, like how do we set up the proper follow-up process and get things in place? And so I wanted to show you from February 2023. We'll go all the way back to December. And so this is the same time period here. And we're going to look at a couple things. And so this is high level. And so it's a CRM system that allows us to basically set up the back end system so that we can track, what's happening with the leads. We can get them booked. We can follow up with them, nurture them, so on and so forth. And so for the paid ads here in that 11-month period of time, you can see 1,584 leads. The reason this is not 1,608 is because there is some duplicates in here. And so that's why, it's not exact. We had about an 80% response rate that you can see here. So that's, all the hot leads here. Booked appointments, we had a 44.63% booking rate out of all those leads. And so that was 707 bookings. And then you can see here, show ups. And so out of the bookings here, out of the 44% that booked, we had a 94.91% show up rate. And so that's actually incredible. And so you can see here 671 trials in that 11-month period and 205 memberships. Now, something that I will also mention is that if we go to the organic side, the ads that we're running are actually helping funnel more people to the website as well. So you can see they had 1,100 organic leads, 95% response rate, 85% booking rate, and a 98% show up rate, as well as out of all the show ups, a 47% conversion rate onto memberships, which is just insane. And so keep that in mind that when you're running ads, it is also funneling people to your website. And so you want to make sure that you have a proper website set up for conversion so that you can make sure that any leads that do end up, heading over to your website, you have a system in place to optimize those as well. You can see here 991 bookings, 972 trials started organically, which is insane. And so wanted to put this out here because the organic system is just as important as the paid ads, which I'm covering. And so how do we get these types of results? What are we doing in the follow-up process? And so I wanted to show you some automations that we have here in place to give you an idea of the proper follow-up structure. And so a couple things with follow-up. Number one, we want to make sure we are fast as fast as possible when responding to leads. And so our follow-up team that managed this for this client, we're responding within 1 to 3 minutes. Okay. Any more than 3 minutes and we're going to lose out on opportunities. Okay. And so the first message we send out is just basically checking in to say, hey there, Sophia from location name here. And then we're basically waiting for them to reply. At this point, we ask them, hey, is this contact first name? And so if I opted in, it would be, hey, is this Alec? And all we're waiting for here is a reply. Okay. If this contact then replies, what we're going to do is we're actually going to send them a message that is specific to asking them a question to nurture them further. And so you can see here, if they reply saying, yes, this is me, we're going to send them a message that asks them, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what are your health fitness goals? Now, at this point, if they reply to this message, our follow-up team is going to handle that. We do not want to have too much automations where it doesn't feel personal. And so in most of these conversations, you're going to see this back and forth. And so here's an example that's just popping up in the account. You can see, hey, is this Ashlyn? She says, yes. Hi, yes, it is. We say, amazing. I saw you signed up for our 14-day core restore challenge. If you don't mind me asking, what are your health and fitness goals at this time? Okay. Now we're starting a conversation. This personalized touch increases conversions tremendously on the back end. And so we want to have this kind of dialogue. So you can see here, they replied at 1:37 p.m. We then messaged them at 1:38 p.m. They sent a message here saying, I currently weight train 4 to 5 times a week, and I'm just looking for weight loss and more healthy lifestyle. Okay. And so you can see here, this one took us about 4 minutes to reply. So a little bit longer than we would like. We want to keep that as low as possible and as fast as possible. We then send this saying, thanks for sharing that with me. We can definitely help you with those goals. Would you prefer a hot yoga and stretching class or more of a hot fitness based class? So depending on your fitness studio and the style of classes that you offer, you generally want to have this question, giving them two options. So it could be if, let's say, all your classes are the same, they're all high intensity interval training or like CrossFit style classes, you could ask, hey, would you prefer a morning or evening class for your first visit? Okay. And that can basically start the conversation. You can see that, oh, that just disappeared. Okay. It's right here. And so they said, I'm interested in the candlelight stretch class. And so our team just replied to this much longer than we should be. This should be a lot quicker. However, we're not perfect either, but we want to keep this as quick as possible. They said, said, interested in this. We said, gotcha. Does tonight at 6 p.m. or tomorrow at 9:15 p.m.? And you can see in real time, they just replied saying I could do 6 p.m. tonight. And so at this point, our team is going to book them into that 6 p.m. class time. And so you can see here that in a second, that's going to go through. Okay, and just like that, you can see right here, 1:53 at 1:54, we have now booked them into an appointment. So it says, I can do 6 p.m. tonight. Great, I saved a spot for you Monday, August 12th, 6 p.m. And so what we've done here is we've booked them directly into that class. Okay, and this is something we just recently started doing, is rather than doing one-on-one appointments, we're booking people directly in classes because that's ultimately what they want. They want to try your classes to see if it's the right fit for them and then make a decision based on that afterwards. Another little tip here is we ask this one question where it says, would you like to add a +1 so you can bring a friend? This just allows us to take one lead and multiply it by 1 or 2. If they want to bring a friend, that also helps increase conversions, because if they're doing a workout with their friend, it's going to be a lot more fun. They're going to have, a better time if their friends are there. And so this follow-up process, as you can see, is very structured and dialed. Like you just saw it in real time, exactly how it played out. We want to ask simple questions. We then want to give them not too many options. And so any questions that we're asking to get them to book only has 2 options. And so hot yoga, stretching, or fitness based, tonight at 6 p.m. or tomorrow at 9:15 p.m. Okay. And so we're basically giving them 2 options only, because when you start to add too many options, it creates a lot of confusion. And we want to make sure that we're not confusing our prospects. We're making it easy for them to book and then going through the process like this. And you can see this contact replied right away after a minute saying, yes, I will bring my mom. So now we just took 1 lead and we turned it into 2 leads, which is just going to make a massive difference in terms of your amount of volume that you're actually able to get into your studio. Okay, the last and final step is getting your trial tracking system in place. Now, the reason this is so important is because we want to able to maximize the trial to membership conversions. Okay, if people are coming in and they're actually signing up for your trial, you want to make sure that you can convert as many as possible. And so what we've done with each of these clients is we set up a trial tracking system so that we can message people who are not actively utilizing the trial. And so in this case here, this client is using a 14-day trial. And so what we do is anytime somebody buys a trial, we basically sort all the contacts who purchased a trial. Once they then start that trial, meaning that, they've come to their first class, the trial is now active and they're going to go through that process, we then move them into the active trial section. Now, whenever somebody's in an active trial, what we want to do is track them throughout the duration of the trial. And so as an example here, this is basically one system that we've used in the past, where basically as soon as it's a day after their trial started, we basically track them in this pipeline here. Once there's 11 days left, so in this case here, it's a 14-day trial. And so the messaging structure that we want to set up is based on a few days within, their trial. So if it's a 7-day trial, you're only going to want to send, 2 messages to prospects. If it's a lot longer, like a 30-day trial, you're going to want to have more kind of sections in here. And so in this case, it's a 14 or 15-day trial. And so when there's 11 days left, we want to prompt a message. When there's 6 days left, we prompt a message. And when there's 3 days left, we prompt a message. Now, what we do not want to do in this system is automate this, because these are real people. You have, you've met them in the studio, your trainers have met them. And so we want to personalize these messages if we can. And so what we've done in our system is we've created a way to populate manual actions based on where a contact is in a trial. And so you can see here, these manual actions function based on where somebody is in that trial period. And so you can see here, these examples are actually retention-based messages. And so these aren't trial messages. But what will happen is, as an example, I can use one of these. Let's say they're 1 day into their trial. We're going to prompt that message in this section here. And so when our clients come into the system, they click Let's Start. It basically takes them to that first contact that needs a message. And so in this case, this is a retention message where it basically says to them, hey, Jane, I noticed I haven't seen you in a while and wanted to check in to see if everything's okay. If I can support you in any way, let me know. And so what this means is now I get to decide, okay, if I know something personal about Jane, if she's struggling with a shoulder issue or a problem, I can come in here and adjust this however I want before I send it. And so what these manual actions allow us to do is basically organize messages, but not automate. And so if a trialer is a couple days into their trial and we want to make sure we're sending them a message, a manual action is going to prompt, and basically we get to decide, should we be sending this message? Do they have an upcoming appointment where they're going to be coming to the studio? Do I need to send this message? And if, let's say, for example, they haven't used more than 1 class for their trial, we're going to reach out saying, hey, can we get you set up for your next class? I know you've only used 1 class in your trial and you only have 10 days left. And so I'll show you a couple example of the messages. So if I go into the trial to messages here, so when they first start their trial, this is the first manual action that will populate. Let's just pull it up here. Okay, whoops, just actually show you where that is, just so you can see. Okay, so these are the trial messages. So we have trial message 1. This will be basically when they start. It says, hey, it's Liz from Oxygen, the owner. Just wanted to send you a warm welcome to the studio. Okay, so this will go out right when they start their trial. Trial message 2, depending on the duration of the trial, this next message is going to go out. And so you can see here, there's actually 2 messages. This is 1. And so because this is a manual action and not an actual automation, we get to decide which message we want to send. And so for this example, it says, Liz again, how was your class on this day? So they would have to put in obviously this information. I see you're not scheduled for your next visit yet. Would you like to do a similar class for your next or try something different? And so this will be sent if they don't have an upcoming class. If they do have an upcoming class, like they've already booked it, then this next message down here will send instead. The client will basically just delete that other section and send this one that says, hey, Liz again, how was your class on this day? I see you're already scheduled for your next visit. Can't wait to see you in the studio. Okay. Trial message number 3. Basically, this is like when it's coming to an end, like the trial is almost ending. It says, hey, we're thrilled you've chosen us to be a part of your health and fitness journey. You've been so dedicated. We'd love to help you book into your next class. Let us know a time that works for you. If they do have a class coming up, we're basically just saying, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you. And then when there's like 1 day left, this is the last message that we'll send. So it's been amazing having you in the studio. Unfortunately, your trial ends soon. We do have a special offer we'd like to share. This offer must be purchased before the end of your trial. Are you interested? Okay. And so you can see here, this is structured. We're tracking every single trialer. They're getting messages. We're making sure they're actually attending classes. We're not automating it because we don't want to deter people, but we're nurturing them. Okay. And this has actually been a massive difference for a lot of our partners' trial to membership conversions. They're now, usually they were close to 20, 25%. We're now seeing them closer to 30, 35%, 40% in some cases. And so this can create a lift of about 10 to 15% in your trial to membership conversions. And so make sure you have a proper trial to membership tracking process so that you can actually send messages to trialers during their trial. This is the exact process I use to help Dan, Haley, and Shauna grow to membership levels they've never been at before. And this can be applied to any fitness studio. So it could be martial arts, it can be CrossFit, it could be, high intensity interval training styles, one-on-one personal training. The only thing that you would need to do is tweak out, the different offers that you're utilizing, as well as change up the follow-up process. However, the structure, the system, the components that we covered in this video, that's going to be exactly the same across the board. So long as you have proper ad testing, proper follow-up procedures in place, and a trial to membership conversion that is actually structured and systemized to get people to consume the trial, and then obviously have a process in place on the back end to sell them onto memberships, then you can see tremendous growth like these 3 studios did. If you found this video valuable and you want to see more content like this, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, if you're looking for a more done for you solution, you can head over to untapprevenue.com and book a free strategy session with me.